Hi, my name's Pete Morrill. We're about deepening canine connections. This is week 2 of our experiment, day 5. And what I'm going to do today is Velcro Sundance to her mat or her place. And I'm going to use a tool, which is an e-collar, a training collar. This e-collar is set up. It's a dog tray e-collar. It goes to, I think, 127. And I have found Sundance's level where she finally starts to feel the e-collar is about 20. But I've also started using the vibration mode, which is just like your cell phone. You can kind of hear it vibrating. And that's what we're primarily going to use today and in 90% of her training. Because basically what I want to try to tell her is exactly when she's making the mistake. And I'll just go, and she'll feel that on her neck. So an e-collar has 2 prongs. When you vibrate, the prongs aren't relevant at all. In other words, they're just going to feel the vibration. But with stimulation, but if you notice, I put this on fairly tight. The reason is you want those prongs to have good surface with the skin. And if they don't, they'll actually start to arc and they'll be more painful than if they were. So all we're trying to do is teach her that if she comes off of whatever surface that she's on, she's going to get vibrated the second she comes off, so she's reminded real quickly that her job is to stay on. If I was you, I would use vibration 90% of the time. I use stimulation usually in the first session about 50% of the time, and in the second session about 40% of the time, and the third session about 30% of the time, and the fourth session about 20% of the time, and using vibration the other, so progressively moving towards vibration. So Sundance is on this surface, right? She knows that this is the surface she's going to be on. I'm going to move her over to that kennel liner over there, and I'm just going to ask her, kennel, and going to put her right here. Sit. Good. Now she's really good at knowing her spot, so much so that she just decides, I'm just going to settle in. So now I'm going to use a lot of temptation, and if she gives into the temptation, I am going to vibrate her. Oh, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. So praise is a big temptation. Motion is a big temptation, especially when you move around a dog. That's a big temptation. If I drop the leash, that's a big temptation. Particularly with her, when I sit down, it's a big temptation. So we might see it here. Nope, she's kind of feeling sad for herself and leaving that leash. So if she were to come off, and usually that's going to happen in this first little bit, I'm going to vibrate her right away. We just did one session before, and you can see how good this works. Watch this. I can't pull her off because she knows that she's supposed to be on. Now, what I can do, once she learns she's Velcro to that spot, what I can do is get her to speed up on the next spot by what I'm going to do is send her to kennel, and it's going to vibrate until she gets to this kennel. Sundance, kennel, vibration, and there she is, and it comes off. Okay, so now I'm going to sit down, more temptation. I'm going to praise her, good girl, good girl. I'm going to give motion. I'm going to give distance, and she's just settled down and said, oh, Dad is pretty serious about this one, because we vibrated her 2 or 3 times. That's really all it took, because she just doesn't like that vibration. And again, there's no major negative stimulation. It feels the same as your cell phone in your pocket, but it just freaks her out, and it tells her exactly when she's doing something wrong. So now I'm going to use it to speed her up again. I'm going to ask her to go to that place by using the K word, and then I'm going to vibrate as soon as she does, and it'll speed her up. Sundance, kennel, kennel, kennel. Good girl, good girl, good girl. Lots of motion around her, lots of praise. Good girl, good girl. Remember, I told you earlier she moved when I sat, but I vibrated the first time I sat. You can see how well this works. It's a simple little tool, and a lot of people say, I don't want to send electricity through my dog. And I get that, but when we do the stimulation part, the electricity, we do it at such a low level, it feels almost like a really slight pinch. And the dog just learns that if I do the right thing, I turn it off. In Sundance's case, we are now on 90% vibration. I probably, in her first part of her career, I probably stimulated her maybe a half a dozen times. And it was very low intensity. And now she's kind of learned that the vibration and the stimulation are simultaneous, or they're so similar that it doesn't make any difference to her. If she feels the vibration, she knows she's doing something wrong. If she feels the stimulation. Now, this is a harder surface for her. And you'll see when she gets up here, she feels a little awkward. Well, that's good for us, because then it makes it harder for her to feel comfortable. Like there, she's pretty comfortable relaxing on her mat. We'll bring her over here, and she'll be a little less comfortable. Sundance, here. That's a good girl. Hey, see, she doesn't even like getting on this thing because it's a little, and I'm not gonna stimulate her for being nervous about getting on it. It's just because it kind of moves a little bit. So that makes her a little nervous. Kennel. Good, good. And we're gonna kennel all the way. Good. Come on, all the way. See, that's the part that makes her nervous. You can understand why. She doesn't feel like it's totally solid. Now you can see she's not real crazy about being on that. She'd like to leave it. But if she does, I am going to vibrate her the second she tries to step off. And so look how much she's willing to stay on. Just because I vibrated her a few times, and early on I stimulated her. Good girl, you're barely on there, huh? You're barely on there. Come on up a little bit more, and you'll be a little bit more comfortable. Good girl, good girl. She knows that this is a test, right? So we can see that. And tomorrow, I'll Velcro her and I'll start throwing the ball. She absolutely loves the ball. And so what we'll do is we'll use the ball as a positive reward, but it's also going to be a temptation. So watch this real quickly. I'm going to vibrate her until she gets here. Sundance, kennel. Good. And all it does is speed her up. Hey, kennel. Kennel. So she came off of it. Her front feet came off of it. And so I vibrated her for a second there. I'm going to vibrate her over to the other crate liner. Sundance, here. Kennel. Good. And as soon as she got to the surface, I let her off. Now her feet are off, so remember our rule is the front feet are what she's responsible for. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make it uncomfortable for her. I'm not going to step on her feet, but I'm just going to give her a little pressure on with my foot on her feet to say, get that foot back on. In our world, the dog obeys as long as their front 2 feet are where you want them to be. This is Sundance. We're about deepening canine connections. She's doing a good job being Velcroed to her mat.